Hi guys, it's Tamara. I am back with another video. We're going to start off our new video talking about dissociative identity disorder and cultures. We're going to splice this up and differentiate. We're also going to look at some other diagnoses in other countries and in other cultures that do not believe in multiple personality disorder. So we're going to start right now on our new video. Thank you so much for those of you who have been with me for a long time now and have come back to my channel. And for those of you who aren't subscribed, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button so then that way you can stay tuned to all the other topics that we're going to be talking about. Sometimes I hit you guys with a lot of bonuses, so bonus videos on Wednesday, and sometimes I will do a week-long series of videos like I'm doing this week about multiple personality disorder or DID. I love gifting you guys with surprises like this, so stay tuned because we're going to keep talking about some really cool stuff. The benefits for you today in this video is that you're going to learn about multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder that has a different edge to it from various countries and various cultures. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I know personally and what research has shown. All right, so let's just go ahead and jump right in, okay? So let's start with a little bit of a definition again. I feel like I need to keep explaining it because it's so hard for me and most people to kind of explain. So let me just explain it one last time and briefly, all right? Dissociative identity disorder is formerly known as multiple personality disorder. It includes distinct transitions between one personality and another. Okay, one personality and another. It's distinct transitions. We're not talking about a situation where somebody says, you know what, I think I'm going to be Jim today, or I think I'm going to be Carol today. This is a distinct transition where the individual changes not only affect, right, their facial expressions, but they also change the way that they behave, their interests, their likes, their dislikes, their values, their characteristics. You actually almost feel as if you are completely talking to a very different person. I think I shared this in some of the previous videos. I had maybe two cases that were extremely rare, but the kids were, these were two males. And they had characteristics that were very similar to characteristics of those who have dissociative identity disorder. But because they were so young, diagnosis was impossible at that age. And secondly, we didn't have any experts in the particular hospital that I worked in to actually diagnose this. So we treated it as psychosis, but I actually think it was multiple personality disorder. Well, in that particular case, both of these individuals were Caucasian. They were not African American, they were not Indian, they were not Hispanic. These were both Caucasian young men. Wonderful clients. I totally love those guys. But unfortunately, we lack research for people of color that have multiple personality disorder because we tend to see this most among adults and Caucasian individuals. All right. So let's jump into what all of this means. Okay. So cases of dissociative identity disorder are rare, and they are rarely seen in countries such as South and East Asia. There are a lot of individuals in South and East Asia who strongly believe that it is not multiple personality disorder or DID, but rather possession disorder. Okay. And one of the reasons why South and East Asia believes that it's a possession disorder is because, first of all, there's no brain scan to show that an individual has multiple personalities. There's also really not a clear treatment course in various countries for people who have dissociative identity disorder. Thirdly, in a particular culture, we design what it is that we think is psychological versus spiritual. And so I like what Arthur Kleinman in 1987 said. I have it right here. He says, culture not only shapes illness, but also determines the way one conceives of illness. So let me repeat that. Culture not only shapes illness, but also defines and determines the way one conceives of illness. So basically what that means is that our culture has a way of defining and determining what is an illness versus what is not. And so in different cultures like South and East Asia, and also India, South Africa, the United Kingdom, right? All those other countries, even Canada, do not diagnose dissociative identity disorder as much as we do. In fact, I like what this research study here that I have says. Only 0.5% of individuals are diagnosed. All right, that's like a drop in the bucket of a big sea of water, right? Only 0.5% in India, Bangladesh, and China are diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. If this is a widespread mental illness, you would think that it would be diagnosed more so in these countries. Now, some research suggests that it is diagnosed, but it's misdiagnosed, and we don't label it the same thing. So that's why it doesn't look like it's diagnosed as much in other countries. A lot of research, though, goes against that theory that it's titled differently, which is why it's not commonly, diagnosed in other countries, or it's misdiagnosed as something else. I mean, we can all argue that point. And we can all Google it and pull up some research that kind of contradicts that perspective. So it really just depends on your knowledge. It really just depends on how you're seeing this thing. All right. The other thing is in the U.S. population, and I have it written down here, in the U.S. population, about 0.1%, I should start there, 0.1% to 1% of the population has DID. 0.1% means that that's a drop in a bucket of a sea, of water, right? A bucket or a sea of water. That's one little small droplet, 0.1%. And 1% is also very rare, okay? So 1 every 100 individuals is diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder in the United States. Now, I may have said this in a previous video, and I'm going to post that up here for you, that for the most part, I think multiple personality disorder is underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed. No matter what you want to call it, right? It's symptoms that I'm looking at. It's the fragmented personality. It's the fragmented mindset. It's the split personality. It's the different attitude, the different eye contact, the different interests, the different likes, the different values that I'm looking at, despite what we call it, right? East and South Asia may call it possession disorder, right? Christians, Catholics, Baptists, Pentecostals may call it demon possession, right? India, Bangladesh, and China may call it something else, but it's all basically the same set of characteristics. Does that make sense? So I love what Arthur Kleinman says, that culture not only shapes illness, but it shapes how we view it. All right? So let's keep moving, okay? So what do we say to all of this? Well, I think what I want you to take away from this video is that despite what we label something as, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but despite what we label something as, it doesn't diminish the fact that the symptoms exist. You can name it A, B, and C disorder. You can name it whatever you want to name it. It doesn't erase the fact, right? It doesn't erase the fact that the symptoms exist. All right. So a research study done in South Africa also said that dissociative identity disorder is a rare disorder seen in Africans and seen in African Americans as well. All right. So this research study said that a study was done on dissociative identity disorder in South Africa, and the research suggested that dissociative identity disorder was non-existent or rare in African Americans who lived in, or Africans who lived in South Africa, Great Britain, Sweden, and Russia. Okay, so in those particular countries, right, the research is stating that it's either rare or non-existent. This is not something that they're used to seeing, especially in Africans and African Americans within those different countries. South Africa, Great Britain, Sweden, and Russia. All right. So the International Classification of Disorders, the ICD-10, I'm going to put that over here for you, is basically, it was designed by the World Health Organization, the WHO organization, all right, the World Health Organization. They are a group of individuals who categorize mental and medical conditions, right? It's kind of like the world's DSM. All right. The ICD is primarily used in other countries. Sometimes it's used here in the United States as well. It's really used among those such as myself who bill insurance and things like that, diagnose you. But in other countries, the ICD is basically all that these other countries have to diagnose a person, right? It's a manual. They go through the manual and they look at symptoms and they try to line things up so they can give you a diagnosis. So the ICD-10 lists a variety of different terms that describes dissociative identity disorder. All right, so I'm going to go through these with you. All right. Sorry, guys. It looks like my camera's out of focus. There we go. All right, so the first title or the first label for dissociative identity disorder in different countries is dissociative stupor. Dissociative stupor. And that is basically catatonia. All right. When you can't move your arm, or you sit like this for long periods of time without looking like you're breathing, right? Dissociative stupor, it's the absence of voluntary movement. The absence of voluntary movement. All right. The next label for dissociative disorders in the ICD is trance and possession disorders. Trance and possession disorders. And that describes the loss or sense of identity. All right. It's a trance state. And what I mean by trance state is that you almost look like you are daydreaming, but in a severe sense, right? Your eyes gloss over, you stare at something, right? A trance state, right? Trance and possession disorder. All right. There's also dissociative motor disorder, and that's basically how the ICD, I'm sorry guys, my camera's going out of focus. That's basically how the ICD classifies seizures and paralysis that is unexplainable. They label it, a dissociative motor disorder. All right. Again, depending on whatever country you live in, depending on whatever culture you are from, is going to determine how you're going to view multiple personality disorder or dissociative identity disorder. Okay? So let me go back to demon possession, because demon possession or demonology is a cultural thing as well. There's a lot of African Americans who believe in demon possession. There's a lot of Catholics who believe in demon possession. There's a lot of cultures from different countries that believe in demon possession, like India, South Africa, Bangladesh. All these different countries believe in demon possession. Of course, like the United States, not every country does. But for the most part, these other cultures do have a belief in possession. And that's why the ICD has the term possession in its labels, because that's how their culture views it. All right. So what is demon possession? Let me just put this out here. So demon possession is the idea that you have become possessed or taken over in your soul, in your heart, and in your mind by an entity that is spiritual. All right. Basically what happens is when this entity, this spirit, enters your body and possesses or takes hold of your inner personality and your inner being, you begin to experience erased memory or amnesia, trance-like states, seizures, convulsions, fainting, and dissociation. All right. A lot of cultures outside the U.S. and outside of Catholicism and Christianity, right, or Pentecostals or Baptist individuals, they don't quite understand it as clearly as we should. All right, I feel like we should understand this a lot better than we do, but we don't. Unfortunately, way back way back before the 1950s, psychology and demonology split, and they split because they weren't able to agree on things, right? But for the most part, pop psychology has diminished and minimized the idea of demon possession in our culture and in our country here in the U.S. The 1973 film, The Exorcist, kind of set the stage for that. It kind of made a mockery of the whole idea of demon possession. At the same time, it also gave us some realistic views of what happens, right? So let me know what you think about this topic. What do you know about this topic? Have you ever thought about demon possession before? And does it kind of make sense to you a little bit? If you were in these different cultures and religions, you probably would think the same thing. But I do want to leave you with this. Like I said in the past video, exorcisms cannot occur unless somebody is licensed to perform the exorcist or certified. Also, the individual must rule out other potential causes like medical conditions and psychiatric conditions. The individual who is supposedly possessed must go through multiple medical and mental health exams to rule out everything else before the exorcism can occur. Even still, if the person dies or something tragic happens to the individual who's being exorcised, then that priest or that pastor or certified individual can go to prison for life. It is a huge chance that everybody is taken when an exorcism is being performed. Thank you so much, guys, for being with me today in this long video. I apologize it's 15 minutes long or over 15 minutes long, but I think this information is important for us to talk about. So here we go, okay? So we're going to try it again in the next video, but we're going to get under 10 minutes because I think long videos can kind of be redundant. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. That way you can stick around for further videos. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.